Good morning and welcome to another Tuesday morning here in Pittsburgh, PA. And on Tuesdays, at around this time, every Tuesday is Breakfast with Bill. Or should we say
Breakfast without Bill.
Without Bill. This is becoming an all too familiar theme. But our good friend and partner is back at home. He is recovering with a little rotator injury. So he's probably popping pain pills, eating Pop-Tarts, and good care from Susie, of course.
And maybe some coaching calls in there.
Probably a few coaching calls,
Yeah.
of course, yeah. And, with that, Matt, I was thinking, would you ever let a rotator sideline you for this long?
We could talk about that offline, but I probably rub a little dirt on it. But hope you're doing well, Bill. Can't wait to see you back in the chair.
Certainly our best wishes to you and our best wishes to Susie as well.
Absolutely.
More importantly.
What are we talking about today, Ron?
Well, I thought it was a good conversation last week in a comfortable spot for me. I was able to sit in my office and watch and learn, which is what I like to do. But your conversation on self-limit or self-talk and positive self-talk, I think, is really a good segue into leading to some negative talk, which we'll get into today.
Yeah, so, obviously anything you do in life mentally is really important. And last week, the effects of self-talk and, the importance of making it positive and the impact and the effect of that positive self-talk. We can all get into ruts. We talked a little bit about putting it in third person, which I thought was very interesting, and see if anybody tried that out there. But today is kind of the opposite, the self-limiting beliefs, the head trash that I like to call it, and how, we use the objective management assessment. And one of the interesting facets of the assessment is it actually measures some self-limiting beliefs. And how many are there on the assessment? 20-some, maybe?
Actually, 47.
Okay.
And I think we're going through all of them today, I think. Is
No.
that right?
But we're going to go through a couple of the top ones and the impact that it can have on a sales cycle and what to watch out for. So self-limiting belief number one.
Number one. So thank you, Steph. I must educate my prospects. So Matt, very simple. How could this possibly derail us in a sales cycle or conversation?
Yeah, this is an interesting one because there's a lot of people, whenever we're kicking off an engagement, what's the purpose of a meeting? What's the purpose of your engagement when you first go out and meet with a prospect? Undoubtedly, someone says, well, I'm there to educate them. Or I'm there to teach them about the options and about the product. And, at the core of self-limiting beliefs are assumptions, right?
Mm-hmm.
And, there are assumptions or predispositions how something will be. And, I think I must educate my prospect, that starts out with an assumption. How do you know where they are? How do you know what they know about your product? Or how do you know where they are in the buying process? And, we talk about sales is something you do for someone, not to someone, right? And you have their best intention. And what the prospect has to say is always far more important than what we have to say. But how is that positioning when you go in and say, I must educate? You're putting your solution in front of the need, in front of the discovery. So I can go on, but I'll let you jump in.
Please do go on and on. No, but I agree with you. In my opinion, prospects don't need an education.
Mm-hmm.
That's what the internet's for. And the internet's been around a long time now. So they're going to get their homework done through the internet, through research. What they need from us is value.
Mm-hmm.
And we need to provide value. And we do that by asking great questions, and obviously by asking more great questions. And we do that in order to find those pain points or the reasons or those compelling reasons why somebody's going to buy from us. Mm-hmm. And if we do go in looking to educate customers, that doesn't mean we're going to fail. That doesn't mean we're going to get kicked out. But we have to keep asking ourselves: is that going to lead to the positive outcome of somebody buying from us, or is that going to lead to the outcome of, let me think about it, because that's something we don't want to hear.
Yeah, and I know there are people out there right now probably saying, well, I walk into sales cycles where they know nothing about me or nothing about our organization or nothing about our product. And there is an element, but I think if we do educate, and I'm going to use that word lightly, if we do aid, if we do ask great questions that leads to some education about what could be or potential solving of a pain or gain, which we'll talk about later. I think more what we do as salespeople is we help navigate. Right, I would love that to read. We help navigate, because I would much rather, and again, it feels like I say it every week, but we see it day in and day out. How do we help people navigate their own internal process?
Yeah.
Right? How do we ask those questions? So if there is any education going on, I think it's walking alongside the prospect, saying, walk me through your process. What happens next? How important is this how important is this to solve for you? Does the person in the ivory tower that you're talking about, does he or she care? Is she aware of this? Yeah. Right? How do we get out of this cycle? How do we, continue? So, I like the word navigate rather than educate. And mind you, there will always be an opportunity to talk about us. When we're living in discovery and we're digging in and say communication, communication, how's that impacting you? What does good communication look like? How are you going to measure communication in this process? Mm-hmm. There will always be time time to simply say, well, okay, are you open to hear how we solve for that?
Yeah. And the point that I always see, and these assessments are really a crystal ball for us and allows us to gauge whether or not somebody is going to be successful, or maybe if a belief is going to derail them. And we see that right away. And where I see it right away is really the first 10 seconds of a meeting. I'll ask somebody in a role play environment, how do we start? Where do we go? And very early in that conversation, we're able to determine if somebody has what we call that need to educate their prospects by either talking about themselves and all the services and offerings and benefits and who we work with and why we work with them, versus that one simple question that we like to ask: what are we hoping to accomplish today?
Yeah. And
really putting the ball in their court, because it's their meeting, not really ours. So again, with this one, in about that 10 seconds, it really comes to life.
Well, it's really about, another one of our favorite mottos, slowing down to ultimately speed up, right? Mm-hmm. Salespeople are notorious from hearing pain or seeing that little opening or, the door just a little bit, that sliver, and they rush to the solution. And as soon as they hear it, they stop listening and they start talking about how we can fix, how we can solve, our features, our benefits, what we've done. And so I think the heart of this matter is it's about the prospect. Mm-hmm. It's about living in discovery. It's about truly understanding, what's going on in their organization. We'll always have an opportunity to talk about us.
Mm-hmm, no doubt.
We can always get back to, how we solve for that, or, people, people have experiences with us. So if we're going to educate, let's navigate alongside them in the decision-making process. It's so critical and key. And if we are going to educate, I think it's the impact. It's the risk, the risk of not making a decision, right? The pain or gain that it comes down to.
Yeah, no doubt. Anything else on that one? I think that's pretty good.
Okay, let's move on then.
Number 2. All right, Steph. So number 2 is I understand when my prospects need to think it over or comparison shop. We see this all the time. We combine this, actually. We got a 2-for-1 special here with prospects that think it over will eventually buy from me. This is something that is near and dear to my heart, because I am one of those shoppers that love to shop around. We'll talk about why that is not such a great thing on the back end. But Matt, why don't you take us out here on this one?
And that's why everything in our CRM with Ron's name on it is pending. Only teasing. Ron, you're a great salesperson. So for me personally, I really struggle with this because I don't really understand it. There's a lot of research out there that you sell how you buy, right? And so Ron was mentioning that he's a comparison shopper. He probably does spreadsheets. When he's making a big purchase, he goes to multiple stores. And by the way, there's not a right or wrong here. Our goal as coaches isn't to change how Ron may buy. It's just to have that awareness that when you're in that selling environment and someone says, "Oh, Ron, thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Love everything I heard. I need to go get 2 bids." Right? So our awareness needs to kick in there. So for me, I'm a very quick purchaser. I know what I want. I really value, my time where I could be spending it elsewhere. I very seldom have buyer's remorse. I make a decision and I move forward from there. I think it gets back to the fact that sales is not a participation sport. Mm-hmm. Sales is about winning. And there are so many salespeople out there that think it's their job, it's their end goal to propose. They have a proposal. We're in the game. Hey, boss man, hey, we got a chance.
We got a chance.
Right? And so many sales cycles fall off there. And, we see day in and day out, what happens after you propose? Right? That's really what I say is halftime, right? If we're going to use a sports analogy, that's halftime of the sales cycle. There's so much important what happens after that. And so, we have to be able, we're never going to be able to persuade or manipulate someone with our questions and them go, "Oh, you know what, Ron, you're right. I'm not going out for 2 other bids." But we have to be able to be confident enough to push back a little bit. "Oh, you need another bid? Where did I fail to earn your trust? What's one thing that you're hoping to see in those 2 other bids that we don't have in our proposal?"
Yep. And the key word I think you mentioned earlier is awareness. The fact that I have to visit, 3 Best Buys, 2 Costco's, and 1 Walmart just to buy a television set does not necessarily mean that I am going to allow that in a sales environment, in a sales cycle, but having that awareness and now knowing how to respond. And literally it took me, maybe 15 plus years to realize that, hey, based on how I go about buying a simple item like a television set, I have to be more aware of how to respond. And in that situation, Matt, if someone does say, "Hey, let me think about it," in your coaching, how do you typically tell them to respond to that? I have a few ideas myself, but what would you go with?
Okay. Understand, how long is that going to take? What exactly are you going to be evaluating? What are you hoping to get in these other bids that you don't see in mine? Oh, by the way, in our experience, how long are you going to wait to receive these bids? How pressing, how urgent is this? Because in our experience, you might not get them in a timely manner. Oh, by the way, if that happens, how confident are you in them? So I think there's an incredible amount of ways to go. And again, it's not to force, it's not to manipulate, it's not to all of a sudden turn aggressive and say, "What are you going out for bids for?" What's going on? Body language, tone, smile. But I always just act, kind of inquisitive, shocked. "Oh, okay, going out for bids."
Asking more great questions.
Yeah.
Surprising.
Yeah. So, how many of us would, have the confidence to be able to do it? Try it next time, because I think it's a great opportunity to really cut through. And I've had experiences before where they're like, "I don't know, this is just kind of what we do." Or, "I guess we need two other more." And what I love to do in this situation as well is, let's be forward thinking a little bit. Okay. You need to get a couple other bids. All right. You're hoping to see X, Y, and Z. What happens if someone comes in at half the price? We're not the lowest in the market. So what are you going to do then if someone comes in half the price? What are you going to do if we come in all within 5%? What's the next thing that you're going to evaluate?
And the key to your questioning is an expression that I heard recently, and that's stop wrestling with smoke. When you get into that situation, you have to come out of it with a game plan, right? And that game plan is asking great questions, like you just mentioned, but you don't want to do what the derailment of this phrase is we're leading you down, and that's saying, "I get it. That's how I buy. I get it. We'll see you in 2 weeks." So, that's where we call a timeout. Ask those great questions. And again, don't wrestle with smoke. Don't leave that interaction wondering why. Why are we waiting? And a couple of great questions.
And I think it's especially dangerous if they're giving you the warm and fuzzy. And again, just to go back to our earlier interaction, Ron, oh, this is great. We're really excited. We're probably going to work with you. We need to get a couple other bids. I loved everything that you said. It's really easy to walk out and just say, whew, that went well.
That felt good.
Yep, that felt really good. I think this is, this is going to be in the bag. So in those situations, stop, press a little bit, understand what happens next, right? Understand what they're looking to get in those other bids. And, I've seen before them say, oh, maybe I just need to get one other bid. That's a good point. Maybe I don't need to compare 4 or 5 or 3. So whether or not they stop the process or not, sometimes they might cut it down. So,
but I can still do that if I'm buying television sets and things like that, right?
Ron will be looking at spreadsheets and I'll be sunbathing.
Exactly.
Yep. So, but anyways, all right. Third one. How we doing on time? 8:16. All right.
Third thing. Yeah, a couple minutes left here for the last belief. The last belief we're going to talk about is if prospects are happy, I can't help them. And Matt, we've all been in this situation where we've walked into somebody's office. We're getting ready to sell them something. We've got our best suit on. 5 minutes into the conversation, hey, I feel good about my partner in this space. What do we do?
Yeah. So, first of all, let me ask you this. Are people out there to take appointments, in that situation, that's an accepted appointment of some kind, are people taking appointments just to make friends, just to have coffee with someone? I don't
typically.
Yeah. I don't think so. People are far too busy with their lives, their personal lives, their professional lives. We're coming out of a time where companies are trying to do more with less. So that's a little head trash within itself. When someone says, hey, we're doing pretty good, a lot of salespeople shut down. Where going back to your earlier point, one way to cut through that is, agenda setting. Hey, thank you so much for your time, right? Want to learn more about your current situation. I think you're going to learn a little bit more about us today, but most importantly, what were you hoping to achieve today?
Yep.
Wow, I'm just, we're pretty happy. I'm just kicking tires. Okay. Why now? Thanks for the opportunity. Why does it make sense to kick tires now?
Yep. Great first question. And I think also what's most important is that acknowledgement.
Yeah.
The acknowledgement that you heard that, hey, I understand that you're happy. It's also important to dig a little bit deeper, but the two biggest frustrations with salespeople, and they're listed in sometimes they're one or sometimes they're two in terms of the simple phrases, but it's they don't understand my business and they don't listen to me. Every single time when you talk about frustrations, those are the two things that pop up. So I think it's very important not to what I would call operation shutdown. And if you're a baseball fan and can tell me where that phrase comes from, you get bonus points. I know Bill does. But again, number one, acknowledgement and kind of digging in further and getting into those great questions.
No doubt. I think that's really important. And people that work with me, they'll hear a lot and role plays. Oh, great. I appreciate that. Oh, I hear you. We get that a lot. I understand. I say that as a confirming, I heard you, and then I transition in. But as we said earlier in the show, people buy for pain or gain. When we walk into an appointment and we hear just pain oozing out, those are the easy ones, right? We still follow a process for predictable results. We don't speed it up. We don't skip steps. But I think, what we're talking about right here is an element of gain, right? And we have to realize that their perception is reality. Their current state is what they know, and sometimes it's all that they know. And so, I think it's still starting and still asking great questions and still trying to understand what's going on. And if someone tells me, oh, we're good, we like it. What's one thing that you love about your service? Again, acknowledging, but understanding it. But then I say, what's one thing that you want to improve about your situation? Again, a one thing question. I think that should be coming out of our mouth each and every time we're interacting with someone that says, hey, we're good, we're happy. Now, this might be on the phone. This is pre-appointment. I think we can get in Ron's scenario where we are at a prospects, I think we can get a lot done with agenda setting and going the why now. What are you hoping to achieve? But if we're cold calling or we interact with someone and they say, hey, we're good. Awesome. What's one thing you like? What's one thing that you'd love to improve? Because now you're able to start connecting the dots. Just use communication. That seems like I've used that, throughout the show. Next time you call them, how's that communication going?
Yeah. And you may be surprised who you think you're competing with. You may not even be competing with them. Mm-hmm. And, you might learn something and again, establishing those and asking those great questions that, hey, maybe this person isn't a competitor after all. And, there is an opportunity to help. The other thing I'd mention is, one of the best ways to overcome a great relationship that a prospect has is to establish a better relationship. Mm-hmm. There's certainly nothing wrong with that. And what I mean by that is, live by the mantra that we've heard if you've been watching the show is, give, get. Mm-hmm. So if you're, odds are meeting one, you're probably not going to come out there with signed paper. Mm-hmm. Let's face it. But there's nothing that says you can't build a better relationship than what that individual has today.
Yeah. Yeah.
So live by that give, get. Maybe you can refer that prospect to, to someone in your network that they can do business with, or maybe you can become a customer themselves of that individual. Yeah. But there's probably that give, get motto that is certainly key into establishing better relationships. And yeah, that's something to try, certainly.
Well, again, if it's putting their needs, it's putting them first. I love the phrase of be a net giver, not a net taker. Right? We all know people in our lives, and we can all feel the net takers, especially, if we get back to face-to-face networking and we're at a cocktail party or we're out, we all know those people that walk around and are looking to be the net takers. Mm-hmm. Who are you? How can you help me moving on? Be a net giver. Bill, we opened up joking about him, but Bill is the best quarterback in many ways. Right? And quarterback of information, quarterback mm-hmm. of people. Whether or not someone can buy from Bill is always looking, how can I help that person? Right? How can I connect the dots? Like you said, how can I give a referral? What should I be thinking about? Or, what do I hear that can make me think about you? What's a good prospect look like to you? He's doing that constantly, not to say, hey, I'm trying to build the Tallarico group. I'm trying to build my personal network. But he's truly helping people. And it's amazing how many connections and how much goodwill that has created. And that's really what the group has been built on.
And that's a good point. It takes me back, actually, probably a couple years ago when Bill and I went to a meeting. This was my pre-Tallarico group days, and we sat down. He was doing me the favor of connecting me to an individual that he thought could probably help me. Mm-hmm. As we sit down, he starts talking about, hey, Joe, what does a good customer, a good client look mm-hmm. like to you? And I thought that was really such a powerful question. And right away in the first 10 minutes, it makes that person relax and think, hey, mm-hmm. maybe they're not just out trying to get, and maybe there is something to be gained here. So, that was an interaction that stuck with me even today, and that was probably 6-7 years ago.
Yep, no doubt. Well, anyways, looks like we're up at the time. There's Evan, new daddy Evan, making fun of Ron like always. But just to recap, I need to educate my prospects. Educating, right? We're putting our needs, our solution, before them. If anything, let's navigate. Let's walk alongside them. We're always going to be able to talk about the features and benefits, and what we can do and how we can solve it. But let's dig in first. Mm-hmm. Let's start connecting the dots and truly understanding their current state. People buy for pain or gain, right? Understand when prospects need to think it over. Again, we're not going to circumvent that process, but we got to be bold and we got to stay there. What are you hoping to see in the proposal? Where did I fail to earn your trust? How many proposals are you getting? What happens next? All of those questions with the clear next steps. And then finally, if prospects are happy, I cannot help them. In this regard, let's be a net giver, not a net taker. Let's ask, let's dig in. What's one thing that you'd love to improve about your situation? Even if it's not today, even if it's not for now, Let's win the war, not the battle, and continue to string those along. And it's never wrong to do the right thing when it comes to people.
There's no saying we can't build a better relationship than the next guy. So that should be our goal. Matt, beautiful summary. Thank you for that. And to everybody, thanks for watching out there. We're hoping Bill will be back next week, and I'll be in the seat where I belong, which is upstairs in my office watching these two guys. And again, Evan, the new daddy, congrats. Welcome back. Lousy golfer, but I'm sure you'll be a great dad. Thanks all.